The Sword in the Stone of Zareth. The twin suns of Zareth burned high in the yellow sky. Wind blew across the dusty plains. In the center of the ancient stone field stood a massive black rock, sharp, cracked, and glowing faintly with blue energy veins. And in the center of that rock stood the sword. Its long blade shimmered with strange silver light. Symbols danced on the hilt, glowing and fading like a heartbeat. The handle was wrapped in a dark leather-like skin, and the edge of the blade hummed, even though no one had touched it in over 10,000 years. The aliens called it Vorel-Thar, the Sword of Trials. And for 10,000 years, not a single living soul had lifted it. Every year, the strongest warriors from many alien races came to Zareth to try their luck. Some tried to break the stone, some prayed to the ancient gods. Some screamed in rage and tried to lift the sword with machines. All of them failed. The sword did not move. It did not shake. It did not care. They said it only moved for the worthy. That day, a strange visitor stepped onto the field. He wore brown boots, a dusty jacket, and a small breathing mask. His face had a scar under the left eye, and his gaze was calm, quiet, and tired. His name was Logan Cade, a human explorer from Earth. The alien crowd watching from a distance laughed. Another fool. He is too small. He has no power. Logan didn't speak. He just looked at the sword and walked forward. High above the stone field, on a stone balcony, stood High Priestess Vorel-Thar, tall, violet-skinned, with glowing silver eyes. She watched the human closely, her hands folded. "Strange," she whispered. "This one does not carry fear." Her guard said, "He is human, weak in body," she said, "but strong in mystery." Logan reached the stone. He didn't kneel. He didn't shout. He simply placed his hand on the sword's hilt. For a long moment, nothing happened. The aliens began to mock him again. Then, the sword blinked. A pulse of blue light rippled down the blade. The crowd gasped. Logan tightened his grip. The sword moved just a little. Not out of the stone, but enough to shake the dust, enough to make the watchers silent. The High Priestess stepped forward on her balcony. "This is no joke," she said. "Prepare the Temple of Trials." Logan let go of the sword. He turned and looked at the stunned crowd. "I'm not here to steal anything," he said in a calm voice. "But if the sword wants me, I'll find out why." One alien stepped out. Commander Dorek, a tall armored beast with red scales. "You insult our world," he growled. "No alien warrior could move the blade. And yet you, a soft human, dare touch it?" Logan shrugged. "I didn't plan it. I just felt called." Dorek raised a heavy spear. "You will not leave this world alive if you mock our gods." High Priestess raised her hand. "No, Dorek." He moved the sword. "That is no small thing. He must be tested." Later, Logan was taken to the ancient temple, built deep into the cliffs of Zareth. Carvings lined the stone walls, showing warriors from every age failing to lift the blade. In the center of the temple, the priestess stood waiting. "You touched the blade," she said. "Now you must face the trial of echoes." "What kind of trial?" Logan asked. "One that shows who you are inside," she said. "Not muscle, not bone, soul. If you survive, the sword may rise." Logan nodded slowly. "I'll try." Vorel-Thar's eyes glowed brighter. "Then enter the tomb of echoes at sunrise, and may your soul be stronger than your scars." That night, Logan sat alone in a stone chamber, staring at his hands. He thought about his past, about war, about friends he'd lost and the dreams he tried to forget. The sword didn't care about power. It wanted something else. Maybe it wanted pain. As the suns dipped below the cliffs, a voice whispered in his mind. A voice from the sword. "The galaxy is broken. The strong have failed. The brave have fallen. Will you bleed for the weak?" Logan looked up at the stars above and whispered back, "Yes." The trial begins. The stone doors opened with a deep rumble. A cold wind escaped from inside the Tomb of Echoes, brushing across Logan Cade's face like ghostly fingers. The corridor beyond was dark, carved into the heart of the mountain, lined with old alien runes that glowed faintly with blue light. He stepped forward alone. The aliens watched from a high platform, silent now. Even the warriors who laughed yesterday stood still today. No one mocked him now, because the tomb had only one rule. If you enter, you either return changed, or not at all. Inside, the silence grew heavy. Logan moved carefully, each footstep echoing back at him with strange delay. The runes on the walls pulsed with light as he passed, reacting to his presence. He reached a chamber shaped like a dome. At its center stood a mirror, not made of glass but of liquid light swirling like water in the air. The voice returned, calm and deep. Face what lies inside, or be forgotten like the rest. The mirror shifted, and Logan saw himself. But not the man he was now, the man he used to be, a soldier, broken and bitter. In the reflection, his old uniform was stained with blood. His hands trembled. His face twisted in pain. He saw friends, Reese, Mara, Jack, faces he lost in a war that Earth never even admitted happened. They spoke. You lived when we didn't. You left us behind. You think holding a sword can make you clean? Logan stepped back, jaw tight. He wanted to look away, but he didn't. Instead, he spoke, his voice low but firm. I didn't forget you. I didn't run. I survived. And I hated myself every day after. The mirror cracked. A burst of cold air hit him like a punch. The dome began to shift and reshape. Walls melted and reformed into a stone battlefield. Alien ruins, broken ships, smoke. And in the center, a tall figure waited, a copy of himself, stronger, sharper, crueler. It stepped forward. I am who you could have been, it said, if you chose power over pain, anger over guilt. Logan raised his fists. I'm not proud of what I've done, but I won't erase it. They fought, fist against fist, memory against truth. The fake Logan moved fast, striking hard, mocking every word. You think being soft makes you strong? Logan blocked, then struck back. No, but pretending I feel nothing, that nearly broke me. One final punch shattered the illusion. The copy disappeared into sparks. The dome vanished. The chamber returned to stone. The mirror melted into the floor. And a new path opened ahead. Logan walked slowly, breath heavy, sweat on his brow. He entered the inner chamber, and there, floating just above a stone pedestal, was the sword, Vorel-Thar. Pulsed once, soft and blue. He stepped closer. The air changed. Calmer now, warmer. He reached out again, and this time, the sword rose before he touched it. It hovered in front of him, spinning slowly. But when he grabbed the hilt, it didn't settle. Instead, it pushed against him. You faced your past, but you are not yet ready. Logan tightened his grip. Why not? You still carry something you will not let go. He paused, then whispered, Earth. The sword fell still in the air. I have always wanted to go back, he said. To see my family, to breathe my home air again, but he closed his eyes. If the sword needs someone who stays, then I give that up. You offer your return? Yes. Then I offer my strength. The sword flared with light. Its blade turned gold and silver at once, and with a slow motion it lowered itself into his hand. This time, it stayed. Outside the tomb, the crowd gasped. The doors opened, and Logan walked out, calm, upright. In his hand, the ancient sword shimmered like the first sunrise. The high priestess bowed her head, but not all were pleased. Commander Dorak scowled. This is not over. Into the Tomb of Echoes. Logan. Cade stepped into the sunlight, sword in hand. The alien crowd that once mocked him now stood frozen, eyes wide, mouths silent. Even the air felt different. The ancient sword Vorel-Thar shimmered softly in Logan's hand, as if breathing. It wasn't just a weapon now. It was awake. From the temple steps, High Priestess Vorel-Thar walked down slowly, her silver eyes locked on him. "The sword is chosen," she said. "But many will not accept this." Logan nodded. "They already don't." Above the gathering, Commander Dorak turned without a word and stormed off, his fists clenched in rage. That night, Logan sat alone in a sacred chamber below the temple. The sword rested on the altar beside him. Faint light pulsed from its edge. He didn't sleep. He couldn't, because now the sword was showing him things. In his mind, Logan was back inside the Tomb of Echoes, but this time it wasn't memory. It was vision. He stood inside a large chamber filled with statues of alien warriors, hundreds of them, frozen in time, each reaching for the sword. Some looked proud, some looked angry, others looked broken. Then one statue moved. It turned its head toward him. "You stole what was never yours." The statue stepped down from its pedestal. It had no eyes, just darkness where a face should be. More statues began to move. Slow, cracking, whispering. "Unworthy. Thief. Imposter." Logan backed away, heart racing. Suddenly, the ground split open beneath him, and he fell through memories he didn't know were his. He saw a child crying on a ruined world, a village burning, a soldier, himself, refusing to shoot, and then the sword again, floating in the smoke. Its voice filled his ears. "Why do you fight for a galaxy that does not want you?" Logan whispered. "Because it needs someone who still believes it can change." He woke up gasping. The sword still glowed beside him, but now it pulsed with gold light. A sign. It had tested him again, and he had passed. But now, he understood something terrifying. The sword wasn't just choosing him. It was making him ready for something worse. Meanwhile, in the shadows of the outer cliffs, Commander Dorak met with a group of rogue warriors, outcasts, mercenaries, and ancient believers of the old ways. "This cannot stand," he growled. "A human holding the sacred blade? The stars will weep." One alien stepped forward. "You want us to take it?" Dorak nodded. "We take it. We destroy him. And we erase this shame forever." Back in the temple, Priestess Vorel-Thar stood at the balcony, watching the stars. An assistant approached. "Why him?" she asked softly. "Why a human?" Vorel-Thar answered. "Because he did not come to conquer. He came to understand. That is a rare strength." As dawn rose over Zareth, Logan stood once again at the stone field, the sword on his back. A soft, wind-carried whispers from the cliffs. Something was coming. He could feel it. Not just a fight, a reckoning. In that moment, Logan spoke to the sword, not with words, but with will. "If I fall, let it be for something that matters." The sword shimmered as if answering, "Then be ready, they will come tonight." The weight of the sword. The sun had not fully risen, but Logan Cade was already awake. He stood on a rocky cliff near the temple, watching the alien sky change colors, from deep blue to burning orange. The air was calm, but his chest was heavy. The sword on his back, Vorel-Thar, felt heavier than it had before. Not in weight, in meaning. Last night, it had shown him visions, not just memories or warnings, possibilities, futures where he became a destroyer or a martyr, and one future where he died alone, sword in hand, and no one remembered his name. The High Priestess Vorel-Thar joined him silently. "The sword is not a gift," she said. "It is a burden." Logan didn't look at her. "Then why does it feel right?" "Because you are still willing to carry it," she replied. He finally turned. "What if it leads me to something I can't survive?" Vorel-Thar's eyes softened. "Then your story becomes a lesson, not a loss." Below, near the campfires of the warrior clans, Commander Dorak gave his final orders to the traitors he had gathered. "Tonight we strike, while he rests. The sword cannot fall fully into his hands." One mercenary whispered, But if we fail, you won't, Dorak growled, because he's still human, and humans break. That evening, Logan returned to the stone field. He stood where it all began. The wind picked up, and the sword began to glow. But something was wrong. Pain shot up his arm. He dropped to one knee. The blade knows, the sword whispered in his mind. They're coming. Suddenly flames lit the horizon. Explosions rocked the ground. The traitors had arrived. The temple alarms sounded. Vorel-Thar shouted, "Protect the relics. Get the O." Civilians inside. But Logan didn't run. He stood, sword in hand, facing the storm. The mercenaries charged, 10 of them, then 20, armored and armed with plasma weapons. But as they approached, the sword pulsed, and time seemed to slow. Logan felt something inside him shift. His steps were lighter, his reflexes sharper, his fear gone. He moved like the sword was guiding him. Slash, dodge, step, breathe. One by one, the attackers fell back, not dead, but stunned, disarmed, defeated. Logan didn't kill. He chose not to. Then Commander Dorak stepped forward, towering and armored. "You don't deserve that blade," he snarled. "I didn't come to deserve it," Logan said. "I came to understand it." They circled each other. The alien crowd watched from the temple walls, silent again. Dorak charged. Their blades clashed, his thick and brutal, Logan's glowing and sharp like light itself. Dorak fought with rage. Logan fought with purpose, and in the final strike, Logan stepped aside, turned his blade, and let Dorak fall to his knees, defeated, but alive. The silence that followed was deafening. Logan lowered his sword. He looked up at the watching aliens and said, "Strength is not killing. It's knowing you don't have to." Later that night, Logan stood before the priestess. He looked at the stars. "I could leave," he said. "I still have a ship." "But you won't," she replied. "No," he said, "because the sword showed me what's coming, not just here, everywhere." She nodded slowly. "Then you must go where it leads." He looked down at the sword, now resting calmly in his hand. It no longer glowed wildly. It pulsed like a heartbeat, a living thing, a promise. And Logan finally understood. The sword didn't choose the strongest. It chose the one willing to carry the weight, even without glory. The challenge of blood and fire. Night fell over Zareth like a blanket of silence. The fires were out. The traitors were gone, beaten, not slain. And yet the trial was not over. Word of the human who lifted the ancient sword spread quickly. Across the deserts, through mountain signals, and deep into alien war clans that still held the old laws. One such law was simple. If the sword is lifted, it must be earned again, by fire and by blood. And so came the last challenger. Next day, a thunderous roar echoed across the sky. A massive black air beast descended. Wings of iron, body of smoke. From it stepped Krogar, last son of the flame-blooded Targar clan. His skin was obsidian red, glowing with cracks of heat. His armor looked like molten rock. His eyes burned like two suns. He carried no blade. His fists were enough. Logan Cade stood calmly in the sacred circle. He had heard the challenge. Krogar would not fight for pride. He would fight to destroy the sword's choice. If Logan failed, the blade would return to sleep for 1,000 years. High Priestess Vorel-Thar approached Logan with a small ritual vial. "Drink," she said. "It will keep your body from burning." Logan took it but asked, "Will it help me win?" She shook her head. "No, that choice is still yours." He smiled faintly. "Good. I'd rather lose with truth than win with tricks." The crowd gathered once again. This time they did not mock. They were quiet, watching, waiting. Even Dorak, now humbled, stood silently beside the temple gate. The circle lit with blue flames. The rules were spoken. No weapons, no shields, no death, unless it cannot be stopped. Krogar cracked his knuckles. Logan stretched his shoulders. The sword remained outside the ring, floating silently above its stone pedestal. Watching. The fight began. Krogar charged first, like a falling star. His fists were fire, his strikes cracked the earth. Logan dodged barely. A punch passed his head, melting the air. He rolled, ducked, leapt aside. One strike landed. Logan fell hard. Blood filled his mouth. But he stood, again and again. Not faster, not stronger, just willing. Krogar laughed. "Why don't you fall?" Logan wiped the blood from his lips. "Because people like you expect people like me to quit." He closed his eyes for a second and breathed. He let the fire come, let the pain speak. And then he moved. Not with power, but with purpose. He used the weight of Krogar's own charge against him, redirected energy, found the weak spot. He didn't hit to hurt, he hit to disarm, and finally he dropped Krogar to one knee. One last twist of the arm, one last fall. But Logan didn't strike again. He just stood over him, breathing heavy. Krogar looked up, stunned. "You spare me?" Logan nodded. "You didn't come to lose. You came to see if I was just lucky." "And are you?" Krogar asked. "No," Logan said. "I'm just trying to be worthy." The flames around the ring died down, and the sword floated, forward again, glowing brighter than ever. Its voice echoed in every mind. The blood has spoken, the fire has tested, the blade now follows not strength, but service. Logan stepped forward, placing both hands on the sword's hilt. It did not resist. It settled, like a loyal companion coming home. Krogar stood beside him, placing a hand on his chest. He bowed slightly. "Blade-bearer, I will follow your flame." That night Logan sat beside the sword in the quiet of the temple gardens. Vorel-Thar joined him. "You've passed more than trial," she said. "You've passed into myth." Logan shook his head. "I'm not a legend," she smiled. "That's what all legends say, before the stars write their names. The blade that chooses worlds." Days passed since the final duel. The story of the human who earned the ancient sword spread beyond Zareth, through starports, whisper networks, and pirate channels. Many believed it was a lie. Others feared it was true. But for Logan Cade, none of that mattered now, because the sword, Vorel-Thar, had begun to speak again, not in words, but in visions. Each night, as he slept inside the quiet stone temple, he saw burning skies, broken cities, planets crying, in silence, not dreams, not illusions, calls for help. One planet showed a prison moon where rebels were used for experiments. Another showed starving colonies ruled by machines. And one, deep in the black, showed a world screaming in silence. A world where children were hunted for sport. Logan woke in cold sweat. The sword pulsed beside him. "They are waiting." He met Vorel-Thar at dawn. "The sword is showing me places," he said. "Worlds in pain." She didn't look surprised. "It has done this before," she replied. "To the old bearers, but they failed. They tried to conquer. You might choose something better." Logan frowned. "Why me?" "Because the sword doesn't want a king," she said. "It wants a servant with courage." Later that day, he stood before the Council of Elders, alien leaders from many species. Some welcomed him, some feared him. One asked coldly, "Will you rule us now?" Logan shook his head. "No, but I won't stay silent either." He turned to the sword hovering beside him. "I can't change the whole galaxy, but if someone is screaming, and I can hear it, how can I do nothing?" Silence followed. Then Krogar stepped forward. "If the blade guides him, I will follow." Others nodded slowly, not because they trusted him, but because they believed in what he chose. That evening, Logan walked through the temple one last time. He past the empty halls, the carved walls, the fire-lit chambers. He thought about the man who arrived weeks ago, tired, alone, uncertain, and he smiled sadly. That man was gone. He now carried more than metal. He carried hope. At the launch pad, his small ship waited. Simple, fast, quiet. No banners, no army. Just him and the sword. Before he boarded, Vorel-Thar gave him a single silver band. "What's this?" he asked. "A reminder," she said, "that even the strongest flame must rest." He looked down at the band, then back at her. "Will I come back?" She smiled. No hero returns as the same man. As the engines roared and the ship lifted into the black sky, the sword glowed with steady blue light. Logan sat in silence, not afraid, not unsure, just ready. He whispered to the stars, "I don't know where you need me first, but I'm coming." And across the galaxy, planets waited, some in chains, some in silence, all in need of something the sword had finally found again, a human willing to stand when no one else would. The human who became legend. Years passed. Across systems of every shape and sun, the name Logan Cade began to echo. Not through military reports or empire records, but in stories whispered at night, told by those who had nothing. Until he came. No one called him Commander. They called him something else, the Blade Walker, the human who carried fire, the one who listened. He was never seen leading armies. He came alone, and always left alone. But wherever he landed, change followed. On the frost world Delmira, the mining, slaves tell the tale of a man who arrived during a storm. He didn't speak much, only said, "Where are the children?" That night the mine exploded. No children were lost, only the chains. On Varney Five, where machines ruled with cold eyes, rebel signals captured one blurry image, a human man holding a glowing sword in front of a burning control tower. Behind him, prisoners escaped into the rain. The machine command was never restored. The skies turned free again. Even in places where he never walked, his story inspired others. Young aliens trained not for war, but for protection. Old warriors laid down their weapons. Even some Earth soldiers began asking questions, because the sword didn't just cut, it showed. Back on Zareth, the sword's birthplace, High Priestess Vorel-Thar stood in the stone chamber where Logan once slept. She wore a simple robe now, no titles, just peace. A group of younglings sat in front of her listening. She told them the story, not of a man who conquered, but of a man who chose not to. He was not the strongest, she said, but he was willing to carry weight no one else would. He did not speak loudly, but his silence made the stars listen. He did not burn with anger. He burned with hope. A child raised their hand. "Is he still alive?" Vorel-Thar smiled gently. "I don't know." Then she pointed upward. "But I know wherever pain remains, that sword will find it." In a distant, nameless galaxy, a ship drifted alone between twin moons. Inside, a man stood near the window, older now, his beard gray at the edges, his eyes softer but still sharp. The sword floated beside him, quiet, glowing faintly. Logan Cade breathed deeply. Another call had come, another signal, another world in need. He picked up his pack, looked at the stars, and whispered, "Let's go." The sword pulsed once, as if smiling, and together they moved again. Not for power, not for glory, but for the quiet promise he made long ago. "If I can hear them cry, I won't turn away." And so, the galaxy remembers him, not as a human, not even as a hero, but as the one who lifted what no one else could, and carried it farther than anyone dared.